Roguelites are in their golden era. It feels like every day another one drops, each promising to be the next Hades, Dead Cells, or Binding of Isaac, but let's be real, not all of them can actually deliver. You know, some of these games absolutely blew me away, and others not so much. So I went ahead and played 5 of the newest roguelites to separate the must-plays from the money grabbers. And along the way, I found one I couldn't believe hasn't hit mainstream yet. I'm rating them on how fast they hook you in, how fun they are, and whether they have that just one more run feeling the best roguelites give you. And let me tell you, some of these games really surprised me. I think it's important to define roguelikes versus roguelites and really what differentiates the two. Roguelites have no shortcuts, no upgrades between runs. They're fully procedural generation in most cases. Each room is part of a completely fresh playthrough. Whereas roguelites often use a room-based hub or branching paths, where each run builds on past attempts with unlocks. So in this video, we're mainly covering roguelites, but we may dabble a little bit into roguelikes. Let's get into it. First up, Rangers in the South. And honestly, this one had me asking, how has nobody done this before? Right away, the 2.5D realistic lighting just grabbed me. It's got that Octopath Traveler kind of aesthetic, and that alone was enough to just grab me and pull me in. But then what really hooked me while playing was the mix of RPG-style looting with a roguelite progression system. You level up like a roguelite with the hardcore element of death is permanent, but the exploration, the loot, the dungeons, pure RPG. It's fast, fluid, and satisfying. The way enemies scale in new areas just feels great, and the combat works. I did a full challenge run using only a bow, and the fact I could even pull that off says a lot about how flexible the system is. You choose from 3 classes, but you're not locked to any of them. I tested all 3, and the mage feels a little underdeveloped, like not enough spells to really make each run feel different. And that's kind of my biggest issue, replayability. I beat the game in about 3-4 hours, and while I had a blast, I didn't really feel the need to go back just yet. But to be fair, this is still early development, and it's only $4. I think with more spells and synergies, this game could seriously be a huge hit, and the developer seems to be putting out a lot of updates pretty regularly at the time of this recording, so there's a lot of promise there. Next up, Talented, and if you're like me and love upgrades, and more upgrades, this one's pretty special. It's a 2D pixel art roguelike that has a massive talent tree, and I mean massive. Every run you're stacking upgrades, evolving your character, and the game never stops feeding you dopamine. Seriously, if you build correctly, every single night you level up like 20 times. And that means 20 new skills, 20 new ways to break the game, and this endless loop of just one more run, fun, just kicking in. So there's a bunch of characters you can unlock and choose from, and I spent a good chunk of time experimenting. But no matter who you play, the core loop is simple. Survive 20 nights, scale as fast as possible, and keep up as enemy waves get more insane. But the game does have its issues, and here's where it lost me. You can't move, you just stand there while enemies come at you in 4 lanes, and after a while it started to feel too simple. There's an option to speed up the nights, which helps a bit, but at normal speed it was just too slow for me. The gameplay just didn't have enough depth to keep me hooked long term. That said, I can't deny how satisfying these upgrades feel. It's fun to build crazy XP scaling loops, and every run feels different enough to keep things fresh for a while. I didn't make it to any endless runs, which I'm not even sure exists yet, but I feel like that's where the game could really shine if there is. And right now, 20 nights and you're done, it's just like you're almost there to where it's almost insane. It's a fun, mindless power trip, and even if it doesn't have the deepest gameplay, I can't complain, it's only $4. Also, I recently realized something massive. Discovering new indie games is tough, and great indie studios with small budgets don't always have the ability to get in front of everyone. So I started a free newsletter where I highlight upcoming promising indie games and give away some keys as well. The last newsletter I think had 15 keys, and I do all of that for free, so consider checking that out. Alright, so the next one completely caught me off guard. It's called Dungeon Clawler, claw as in claw machine, and that's exactly how you play. At first I thought this was just another standard roguelite, move from room to room, fight enemies, pick the encounters, but then it throws in this claw machine mechanic, and suddenly everything changes. Instead of picking up a weapon, you literally drop a claw down into your inventory, grab an item, and hope it lands how you need it. Your attacks, your defense, your spells all depend on how well you can work this system. It's all RNG, Sometimes the claw grabs exactly what you need, and other times it fumbles and you're screwed. And yeah, that can be frustrating, but weirdly enough, it kind of made the game more fun. It kept me on edge, actually focusing on where to drop the claw, because if I didn't, the run was over. But the game has its struggles, and it's in enemy scaling. Early fights were way too easy, and then out of nowhere, a boss would just completely delete you. It's like the game lulls you into this false sense of security, then boom, you're gone. The art style, not really my thing, but I'm willing to overlook aesthetics if the gameplay is strong enough, and this actually kept me coming back. It's one of those games I could see myself picking up randomly, running a few rounds, and putting down nothing too deep, but just fun enough to keep in my rotation. Also, the music went unreasonably hard for no reason, like way too good. Alright, next up, Survivors of Chaos, and this one had my attention immediately. It's like someone took Diablo's loot system and threw it into a Vampire Survivors style roguelike. It honestly worked. There's a meta progression system where you can actually keep some of the loot from your runs, making your character stronger over time. I loved it. You start in this Hades-styled hub, pick your upgrades, and then drop straight into the chaos. The action kicks off fast. You're swinging an axe, dodging enemies, leveling up, all the usual roguelike goodness. But here's the issue. At least from what I found, you're locked to an axe. At least in my runs, I couldn't find a way to switch weapons. No bow, no magic staff, just the axe. And while the upgrades were fun, it felt limiting. And that's kind of the other problem. It doesn't feel like every run is unique. The skills are solid, but they don't interact in crazy ways like in other roguelites. Right now, it's just a little too predictable. That said, the loot system saves it. Even when you die, you keep some gear, so every run still feels like progress, which is a great touch. And look, this game is still in early development. If they add more weapons, more skill variety, more interactions between builds, this could be a serious contender to keep on your list. Just stay updated on it. Anyways, we're on to the last game, and at this point, two things are clear. One, you love roguelites, and two, you want to find more. If you found at least something you're going to check out, consider liking and subscribing. Alright, the last one's Magicraft. It's already got over 10,000 positive reviews on Steam, and honestly now, I see why. At first I wasn't sold, the art style didn't click for me. The main character felt too cartoony compared to the rest of the game, but the second I started breaking the spell system, I was in, okay? I was in. The game lets you build spells from the ground up. You can mix, match, stack, and tweak every single wand to completely change your run. And when I say game breaking, I mean literally game breaking. You can throw 1 or 2 extra spells into a mediocre build and suddenly you're lagging the game out. And that's the magic here. You're constantly experimenting. You sit in the shop thinking, what if I mix these two things? And suddenly you've got a build that just obliterates everything. It's the first game in a long time that's actually given me that Binding of Isaac feeling. That one more run addiction, while still being its own unique game. Yeah, this just has it. It always feels like you're in control. Every spell tweak, every upgrade, it's all on you. And that makes every run feel fresh. I haven't even beat the first world yet, and I'm already hooked. Like, if this game scales up any further from here, it's just gonna be insane. So yeah, if you can look past the character art, there's not a single thing in this game I would change. Anyways, I hope you found something off of this list, and help me find some more games to test and share with everyone. Let me know if I missed any. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.